You know what shy pooping is? It's a pointless bid for control. You want to take the one part of life that you truly think is yours, and you want to protect it from a universe that takes whatever it wants. It took my wife. It clearly took something from you.
I control death. It does not control me. I don't consider death cruel, but life. Death is a paradoxical quest. It ends, but never truly begins. I don't concern myself with the ambitions of insects. To say your death is a waste is the understatement of the century. Take comfort in the fact that you are now part of something grander. I observe the field from a plateau you cannot even comprehend. Humanity. It's just a word.
Welcome back, my legends, and today we're gonna talk about Caustic, my favorite legend. And today we're gonna talk about three specific things. We're gonna talk about what I think was the inspiration to create Caustic. Two, we're gonna talk about the new lore details we learned about Caustic and his relationship with Watson and how he's turned more into a father figure than a psychopath. And three, we're gonna talk about what I think was the motivation for Caustic to be what he is now, because I don't think he was just born crazy. I think he was driven into madness. So in today's theory, we're gonna explore all those three things. Now, the first thing I want to address is my last video about Caustic's dark secret past theory. Now, the thing about that is that I believe Caustic was inspired by SCP-049, the Plague Doctor. Now, that video was about what I think happened when they discovered what Caustic did in the laboratory and what his true mission was from the beginning. When, if you guys saw my first theory I ever did on Apex, I said how Caustic is really looking for the cure for death. And funny enough, SCP-49 is also in a way looking for the cure for death.
The pestilence, yes. So many have succumbed, and many more will continue to, until such time as a perfect cure can be developed. It is my duty in life to rid the world of it, you see. The cure to end all cures.
But they see it different. SCP-049 sees death as a disease that needs to be cured. Although he never mentions the disease as death, he's talking about, when he says the pestilence, the disease, the great plague, he's talking about death. Caustic sees death as, it's kind of weird. He sees it as something that he can stop. I'm not sure if he's trying to prevent it by bringing people back alive like SCP-049 does, or if he's trying to actually stop aging or make it where you can actually bring people back alive. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it has to do with death. It's just that they both see death as two different things. They're trying to conquer death in their own original ways. Here's the last thing I'll say about these two. Both of them are obsessed with science.
Don't be fooled. I'm a man of science.
We are all men of science. Fetch your coat and show me to my quarters, Doctor.
It's a fine line. Avoid death as closely as possible.
Stricken as it was with the pestilence, this creature is now clean and free from the terror it would have experienced otherwise.
Both of them killed their co-workers. Very interesting enough. And last thing I'll say is that at the end, they both realize in order to continue their research, they need to experiment on live subjects.
Provided important insight. Living human subjects are the only way to proceed forward, I am decided.
Marvelous. So many willing test subjects.
Interesting. They both come to that conclusion, which tells me again, like I said, that Caustic is inspired by SCP-049. If you guys want to do more research on that, I suggest you guys watch the SCP-409 videos about it and then compare it to Caustic and what I just said in this video, because it should be very clear that I believe Caustic was inspired by this. But now let's get to the juicy stuff. Let's get to the new lore details we learned about Caustic and what has been happening over the story. Now, a big bombshell. What we learned is that Jacob Young, the Syndicate director, was talking to Cheryl. Yeah, Cheryl. They were talking, and Cheryl called Caustic Knox, as in his name. And Jacob Young said that, hey, he's no longer Knox, he's Caustic. So, the Syndicate know who Caustic really is. So, this just tells me is that were they covering up Caustic's death? Were they a part of his cover-up? And why did they want him so-called dead? Because remember, Caustic, and well, I thought in my theory that he faked his death to join the games. But now that they know who he is, this makes me wonder, and because in one of the little lore details is that to be declared dead. So this just tells me is that the Syndicate might have helped Caustic cover up his death as being Alexander Knox. We don't know, we'll see later on. But this is very important. This means that in a way, Caustic could be some kind of a prisoner where they said, hey, join our games where you can test as many test subjects as you want, but we need you for the views. So this makes it, there's a lot of possibilities here, but this is what I'm getting at, where Caustic could be some kind of, he either made a deal, but in a way he's also a prisoner, because it's kind of a win-win when you think about it, even if he is a prisoner, because he gets to test on people and find what I think, what I said again, is his ultimate goal, and that's to find a cure for death. So we also learned later on is that he's been a father figure. He's gone soft. He's kind of been a father figure to Watson. Now, people were saying that Caustic is just this crazy psychopath. No, this proves once and for all that Caustic is not that. Because, come on, if he really was that crazy, would they really let him be the father figure for Watson? No, of course not. So they understand, or the legends and anybody in the Apex game staff, they understand that Caustic is kind of playing to this super villain role, but he's not really crazy and just want to gas people to death. He's just let's just say he's just cold-hearted. Watson might play a key role where she might restore Caustic's faith in humanity. But this is what leads me to my third and final point. What led Caustic to be what he is now? What led Alexander Knox drive him to madness? What made him lose his faith in humanity? Now, if you saw the opening of the video, you kind of have an idea. Now, for those of you who don't know, Caustic grew up in an orphanage that was run by his mom. So Caustic as a kid was probably around orphan kids, which is not a problem, but then the Titanfall war happened. So you can imagine there was a flood of orphans that were coming to the orphanage. And also, Crypto and Mila were one of them, but they were being taken care of by mystics. So what I'm saying is that hard decisions had to be made in an orphanage, especially when there was a big scale war. Stuff had to happen where they couldn't take care of certain kids, or horrible stuff happened where they couldn't feed everybody. Caustic understands what war really is, the suffering of the many and the benefit of the few. Lifeline's dad sold weapons. Octane's dad runs a pharmaceutical company. They made a lot of money selling medicine, but do you not think they were gonna price gouge that medicine? They probably made it where the common folk who couldn't afford it could not buy the medicine because they double or even tripled the prices. Mirage, his brothers disappeared in the war, and I presume his dad also, and now his mom is losing memory of him. Rafe was experimented on. Crypto and Mila were orphans, and I presume it was somewhere during the Titan War where they just ended up in Caustic's mom's orphanage, and luckily for them, Mystic took care of them. But what I'm saying is that Apex is telling a story. The Titanfall was about the war. Apex Legends is more about what happens to the people after and during the war, and it's very special. I think that's why I really like this story, because it's telling a story of what secretly the horrors of what happens during a war and even after the scars that continue. And this is what I think happened to Caustic. Caustic understands the cruel truth. When it all comes down to it, when people need help, people will profit under other people's suffering. And this is why I did the final quote at the beginning of the video.
Humanity. That's just a word.
Guys, so that's my theory of what's going on so far, and don't worry, I'll connect all the pieces together on my what's the purpose of the Apex games. But I'm gonna wait a few more days because Bloodhound's Town Takeover should be coming somewhere in early April. So I'll see you guys then, and I'll catch you all next time.
The days I could still have all passed away. The curse that's inside of me cannot be changed. I'm sorry I couldn't save you then. As through the air came the dancing flames. I'll keep screaming out with an unwavering tone. I'll keep on repenting for that night.